You know, there are a handful of conversations a parent will have that feel huge. And having the talk is probably at the top of that list. It's one of the most significant and, let's be honest, nerve-wracking things we do. But what if it doesn't have to be this single, scary event? So let's dive in. We're going to break down an expert-backed framework that can turn all that anxiety into a confident, lifelong conversation.
Ah, there it is. The question. The one that can make a parent's heart just stop for a second. It feels so massive, you know? Like it's loaded with 1,000 potential wrong answers. But here's the thing. It's also a sign of a really healthy, curious mind.
And that right there is the core message for today. Look, this is a universal challenge. Every parent goes through it. But there's a clear, totally manageable path through it. The goal isn't to dread this moment, but to actually see it as a huge opportunity.
And this quote, this is the fundamental shift in thinking. Just let that sink in for a second. It's not a performance. It's not a one-time speech you have to get perfect. It's just the beginning of an ongoing dialogue. This one idea, which comes from developmental psychology experts, it changes everything. It just takes all the pressure right off.
So how do we actually build that conversation? Well, it all rests on 3 simple but really powerful pillars. Think of this as your new framework. It's what's going to guide every answer you give, no matter how old your child is or what they happen to ask.
So here they are. First, you ask before you tell. Second, you use real words. And third, you always frame the whole thing with love and science. Let's break down exactly what each of these looks like in the real world.
Okay, this right here, this is your golden ticket opening line. Seriously, why? Well, because a kid's question is almost always simpler than the complicated one we're imagining in our own heads. This one simple response immediately stops you from launching into a lecture they're not ready for. And this really gets to the magic of that first pillar. See, by asking them to clarify, you're putting them in the driver's seat. You're not guessing what they need to know anymore. You're responding directly to their level of curiosity. And that ensures your answer is perfectly matched to what they're actually ready to hear.
All right, pillar number 2. It is officially time to retire the storks and the cabbage patches. The research on this is crystal clear. Those old metaphors are just confusing, and honestly, they can break down trust later when kids find out the truth. You want to be their source of truth, and using simple, factual terms is how you do it.
You know, there's some powerful psychology at play here. When you treat words like uterus or sperm with the same calm, matter-of-fact tone you'd use for elbow or knee, you completely strip them of any shame or mystery. You're teaching your child that this is just normal biology, nothing to be weird about.
And here it is, the third pillar, which might just be the most important one. Always start with the emotional context. Before you get to a single bit of biology, you frame the entire conversation around love and family and wanting. This provides a safe, warm foundation for all the science that's going to follow.
So with those pillars in place, let's see how this whole conversation actually builds over time. This isn't a single info dump, right? It's more like a ladder of information. And that's so crucial because a child's brain builds understanding layer by layer. You just climb this ladder together as they grow.
Okay, first rung on the ladder, the preschooler. When a 3 or 4-year-old asks, "Where did I come from?" they're not really asking about biology. They're asking a deep, philosophical question about their own existence. Where was I before I was here with you? Their whole world is about their connection to you. And so, the perfect answer meets them right where they are. It's simple. It's loving. It uses a correct term, uterus, and it directly answers the real question. For most kids this age, hearing the story of "I grew safely inside you" is completely and totally satisfying.
So a few years go by, and their curiosity evolves. The question gets a little more specific. They move from where to how. Now, they're still not asking for the whole story, but they understand cause and effect. They want to know, what were the ingredients that started them?
So this is when you introduce the 2 key components. And notice the language here. It's so simple and non-threatening. Tiny eggs and tiny seeds called sperm. This is totally factual, but it's still gentle and completely age-appropriate.
Now, here's the crucial point. You can explain conception without having to explain intercourse yet. The idea that an egg and a sperm join together to make one single new cell, that's a mind-blowing and totally complete concept for a 7-year-old. And for a lot of kids, that answer will hold them over for years.
But eventually, their logical brain is going to get to the final piece of the puzzle. They've got the ingredients, they know where the baby grows, but now they need to understand the mechanics. Okay, How do these two things actually meet? They're ready for that final, literal step.
And here is how you can define it. You start by bringing back that emotional frame from Pillar 3. It's something special, it's private, and it's connected to love and family. That context is everything. You give them that before you deliver the simple biological facts.
And you know, the key to this part is all in your tone. Keeping it calm, scientific, and almost boring tells them this is just normal anatomy and biology. It's not something to giggle at or feel embarrassed about. You're simply finishing the story that you started telling them years ago. So after all those steps, after climbing that ladder, what's the ultimate takeaway? Let's bring it all home with the most empowering final thoughts from our expert sources. This is the stuff you really need to remember.
Okay, these are the points to write down. First, you can't get this wrong if your intention is loving and your answers are honest. You just can't. Second, it is absolutely okay to say, I don't know. And maybe most of all, remember that their question is a trophy. It is proof of the trust you've already built.
This might be the most useful script in this entire explainer, because getting stumped isn't failure. Pausing to gather your thoughts shows your child that you take their questions seriously. It honors their curiosity. Really, it's a huge sign of respect.
And in the end, it really is that simple. This entire framework, all the pillars and the steps, it all just boils down to this one single mission. Your child trusted you enough to ask. Your job is simply to honor that trust with a simple, honest answer.
So, the next time you hear that question, just take a deep breath. And before any of that anxiety has a chance to creep in, remember this. The fact that they're asking you, that means you've already succeeded in the most important part of being a parent. You're already their safe place.